we were talking about interest rates, and I've always been talking about it in terms of the what you get if you go to the bank, like if you're borrowing to buy a car or something like that. And that is true, but we're going to be more interested in the interest rates that governments pay, that big corporations pay, this kind of thing. And so I want to talk a little bit about bonds. And so to do this, I'm going to start out by selling a bond. And this, if I had the slip of paper, honestly, it's here. Trust me, I'm a doctor. There's a slip of paper here that looks just like this. Oh, thank you. It's going to make a lot more sense to sell a slip of paper if I have a slip of paper. So here it is. It looks like this. You can trust me on the fine details. There's a lot of trust involved in the bond market. So yeah. So that's what it looks like. And I'm going to sell it to you guys. And eventually I'm going to have the video work. Honest, I am. Okay. It's working, right? Now it's going to work. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is a slip of paper. It means 1 week from today, if you trust me, which maybe you do, maybe you don't, I will pay whoever holds the slip of paper in those sweaty little hands. I will pay them 10 euros cash money for Valentine's Day. It'll be great. And so I am going to sell this for cash money to you guys. And none of this laser card stuff, but who wants to buy it? Yeah, what do you pay for it?
Okay.
8 euros. Anyone going higher than 8? Yeah. 9 euros. I hear 9 euros. A bunch of business school students who can do the math. Anyone willing to go higher than 9? Yeah? 950. I got a 950. What's that? 980. I hear a 980. Anyone willing to go higher than 980? What's that? 984. What? 981. Right? I will remind you at this stage that you will actually have to pay up this cash, which means, for one thing, that you actually have to have this cash. And your bank isn't going to do it. So anyone want to change their bids? I've got 981. 995. Woohoo! 995. Anyone willing to go higher than 995? 999. 999. Anyone willing to go through 10 euros? No? No? Okay, it is yours. Nope. I have. Sale fell through. Sale fell through. There were liquidity constraints. Liquidity constraints just means he has the wealth, I'm assuming, but he does not have the means to make it available to me. And what I'm doing here is borrowing money, right? I am getting money today and paying back more, not a lot more, but some more in a week. So I'm borrowing money, yeah. So just because he has the wealth, it does me no good whatsoever, right? I need the cash because I'm borrowing money. And he could say, I'll get it to you on Friday. But that's not the same as money today, right? Maybe I want to buy a sandwich or something after. I have a drug deal that's going down. If I don't have the cash, I got real serious problems. Anyway, I need the money now. That's why I'm borrowing it. If I didn't need the money, I wouldn't borrow money in the first place. So the fact that he doesn't have it to give me now in the form that I need it means that that's no sale. So who said 995? Yeah, you have the cash? Oh, awesome. I have a bit of change. all kinds of liquidity over here. Great, thank you. And this is yours. Okay. Now I do this whole little exercise because first of all, I like cash. I have never, and this, it's dear to my heart, I have never done so well on this transaction in my life. Like somehow you guys trust me. I don't know what I've done to deserve this, but it's touching. Normally I get 2 or 3 euros and I just have to suck it up and pay the rest. Something about this class, it's lovely. So this is how the bond market works. This, what I have sold here, is just a bond. I came up, it's a little IOU, slip of paper saying I owe you money. Whoever holds this thing gets the money. You know, we'll see. You know, it depends on how trustworthy I am. But in principle, if I pay back my debts this time, then that's how much it costs you to buy the debt. So when you hear them talking about we bought debt, this is just what they're doing. Like you could, for instance, turn around, make the change and sell it to him for $9.95, $9.99 right now, making 4 cents profit, clear. Because it's whoever holds this at the end of the week, right? And a lot of times with bonds, what you will see is that you buy them and you have the slip of paper and then it's for 10 years and they're not going to pay you back for 10 years. And then somewhere along the line, you want cash and you'll sell it to somebody else. And the bonds will go through various hands during that 10-year period, switching between different people who hold it. And then whoever gets paid back is at the end of the time. Whoever is holding it at the end, it's like a hot potato sort of thing. So you can sell it. You can, you know, if you learn information that Ivan can't be trusted, which is likely. I suppose you learn that in all these other places, I borrowed $2 and I never paid it back. And all the other students from the previous year say, "Oh, you sucker! You bought from Ivan. Oh, what a loser!" He never pays back any of his debts. Don't you know that? He's famous for that. And then you can say, "Okay, let me find another sucker and sell it off to someone else for 5." So, right, this is possible, right? And this happens in real life, like people who borrow money, companies, governments who borrow money. They issue these bonds, just like I did. Just print up a little slip of paper saying, I owe you money. Sell it off to somebody. That's money. Oh, right. I borrowed $9.95 today, and I will pay back, hopefully, 10 in a week. So it's just borrowing money, right? And from that, if only my computer worked, maybe this will work. Let's see if this thing works. We've got a pen. We've got document camera. Oh, all the technology in the world. We can do it. We can do things. Okay. So what happened here? I have this thing that I'm paying back, in principle, 10 euros in a week, right? And I'm borrowing $9.95. So we can convert this into an interest rate. What interest rate am I paying on this money that I borrowed? Right, so I have, we talked about interest rates before. We said, like, if I borrow money, and then 1 plus the interest rate times the amount that I borrow is equal to the amount that I pay back. And that's the definition of the interest rate. So in this case, 1 plus I times the amount that I borrow, and the amount that I borrow is $9.95, is equal to the amount that I pay back, 10 euros. So then I just solve this little thing to find out what the interest rate is. So that's 1 plus I is equal to 10 over 9.95. Anyone have a calculator lying around? No, of course Be easy. Oh, in fairness, like all the technology hates me today. My calculator died as well. So we will use the calculator app in Windows like schmucks. 10 divided by 9.95 equals 1.005. 1.005. So that's 0.5% in a week. So my weekly interest rate is 0.5% that I'm paying on my debts. I have never done so well. Normally it's like 80% in a week. It's, I'm not known as a good lender. Sorry. But, well, we can talk about that, but we don't normally talk about weekly interest rates, and that's a bit weird. Normally we talk about annual percentage rates. And so to convert this to an annual percentage rate, all I have to do is think, well, if I could do this every week, and now it's not true that I could do this every week. Part of the reason why I got a good deal on this sale of this bond is that it's novelty, right? It's a goofy thing that's happening in class. At the end of the day, let's make things interesting. Let's have a good time, right? To the best of our ability in economics class, right? If I was doing it every week, it would get boring. People wouldn't do this and I wouldn't be getting such a good deal. But if I could get this same deal every single week, then on whatever I was getting, I would get 1.005 this week. And I would multiply that 1.005 next week. Right? And I would do that each and every week, taking whatever this cost was, and I would roll it over each now. Like you think about it from the lender's point of view. You're lending $9.95 for 1 week. You take the money you get from that, 10 euros. You get the same interest rate the next week, the same interest rate the next week, the same interest rate the next week. Pretend like you could. And then you would do this 52 times, 0.005, which is 1.005 to the 52nd power, because there's 52 weeks in a year. Just multiplied it 52 times by itself. And so what is that? Anyone have a calculator that will do that for us? No one. Okay. Let's stop this. Wait, 0.005. Equals 1.29. So I'm getting 1 plus the yearly interest rate is equal to 1.29. I am paying 29% interest on this loan. So even then, it sounded like the prices got jacked up to the sky and it was just getting goofy there at the end. But in fact, from any kind of business perspective, if you think that I'm going to pay back the loan, if you do, then this was a great business deal for the person lending the money. And I am being fleeced as a person borrowing the money. Like I should, even on a credit card, I'll get better than 29%, right? So I clearly am making a bad business decision here. And that way we can compare interest rates. We can, even though we have this one little one week loan, in fact, we can think of it as a yearly loan in the same sort of way. Okay. You can't see that at all. I don't know. Yeah. Someday we will master the technology. You're saying no, he's never going to master the technology. You are probably right. Okay. So that's what a bond is. It's just an IOU. It's just somebody writes the slip of paper. In this case, it was me. Could be IBM, could be the city of Dublin, could be the country of Ireland, whoever. They write this IOU, they put it on the slip of paper, and they sell it. Now, a couple of things you can do is you think, well, what if I wanted to do better than 29%? 29% is kind of a terrible interest rate. How could I do better? Let's see if I can, presentation computer. Well, there are a couple of things that I could do to get a better price on my debt. Right? I'm borrowing money. This is debt that I'm issuing. I'm issuing debt when I sell this bond. Now I owe somebody money. I have to remember on Monday to bring 10 euros. I have to have 10 euros. I'm going to have to sell my cat to get 10 euros. I have to come up with 10 euros somewhere, and I've got to have it here. Otherwise, you're all going to kill me. I'll just call in sick. Okay. So how could I do better than 29%? How could I get a higher price than $9.95? Right? Because the higher the price I get, the lower this interest rate is going to be. Imagine, for example, that someone had paid me only 5 euros. Right? That means I would be borrowing 5 euros and paying back 10. That's 100% interest rate over 1 week, over a year, God help us. Right? So the lower the price that I get on this debt, the higher the interest rate. The higher the price that I get on this debt, the lower the interest rate. If I had gotten 10 euros, then I would be borrowing 10 euros and only having to pay back 10 euros, 0% interest rate. Right? So the higher the price I get, the better. So how do I get a higher price? Well, it's the same way you get higher price on anything. It's just a thing that I'm selling. Right? So one way is to convince you guys that I am trustworthy. You can trust me that I will give back this money. And I don't know what I've done to earn your trust so far, but I have more than any other class in my life, and this is lovely. But I don't have as much as I do with the bank. So somehow you guys trust me less than the bank does. That's not right. It's not right. So I could be more trustworthy in whatever that means. And so one of the things that you'll see is that people will worry about paying back. Like in the US at the moment, they have this goofy thing that they do every year with the raising the debt ceiling. That they do all this spending and they say, oh, we're not going to pay for it. And then they fight over it, whether we're going to pay for it or not. And the trouble is, if you don't pay for it, if you don't raise the debt ceiling and borrow more money, then you can't pay back the old money. People don't get their debts paid off, and then you're untrustworthy and no one can trust you and the interest rates go high. Right? So just being trustworthy is all that's about. The other thing I could have done, and this is less obvious, is I could have told you about this ahead of time. Like maybe you really wanted to play this little game, but you couldn't because you didn't have any cash because we're in the laser card society. And so you couldn't play because I don't have the cash machine. So I could make it easier to take transactions. I could tell you about it ahead of time so that you have the money that you need to play the game, right? Okay, so that's all there is to bonds and interest rates, except to say that it always feels more complicated than that. And this is just to give you an idea of the complication, if we can. No, we cannot. There we go. So here's a typical bond. It's not quite a typical bond, but it's typical enough for us at the moment. Okay. It's actually a little more complicated piece of paper. You've got some big government and of course this doesn't work. Nothing's going to work today. I'm going to cry. Yeah. Okay, so we got a big government or big corporation that does that. In real life, outside of a classroom situation, if I come up with this piece of paper and try to sell it off, people are going to laugh at me, right? You can't really do this, me and you. But governments, corporations, they do this all the time. So your mom and pop shop, if they want to borrow money, they got to go to the bank. But if IBM wants to go to borrow money, they can either go to the bank or they can issue these bonds. They say, we owe you money. Okay? So that's fine. Again, it's whoever holds the piece of paper. Now, in real life, we don't usually issue the piece of paper. We keep it on an electronic register somewhere, but you can get the piece of paper if you want. It's the same idea. Okay? They have the amount that they're going to pay. And you'll notice that I put that 5 years down the line, put that 5 years down the line. 5 years is sort of one of the typical lengths of time they use. Usually they do 10 or 20 years, but they issue a number of 5-year bonds. So it's going to take 5 years to get this paid off. This 10 euros that they're going to pay at the end is called the face value of the bond. This is how much they're going to pay back. Okay? Just jargon. Bond market has loads of jargon. And one of the pieces of jargon is the face value, the amount that they're going to pay back at the end. And then it has another feature, has this feature that they're going to pay €1 on each February 7th up till then, right? This is called a coupon payment. They're paying a little bit as you go along, and then at the end, they're going to pay this big lump sum back. Okay. What's that about? That's about nothing. That is just the convention. They can write these any way they want, but there are certain conventional ways to write them. Okay. And the certain conventional ways to write them are so sort of institutionally ingrained that you probably have trouble selling a bond that didn't feature these standard conventions. But they are just convention. There's nothing legal about it. There's nothing economically significant about it. There's nothing really very important about it unless you're in the bond market. But they do have these conventions, and these conventions, like when you sort of glance at the bond market, the jargon will take you back, but it is never, ever any more complicated than me selling the piece of paper in class. It is always the same thing. They just jargon it up. So for example, they have gilts and bonds, and they got bunts and various names for bonds. That just has to do with whether it's 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or 20 years until they pay it back. It's just added jargon for no apparent reason whatsoever, other than, you know, it's a bunch of cool frat boys there selling and buying bonds. They like to have nice jargon for things. That's all it is. But the coupon payments are interesting in the sense that this is a feature of the bond market that they have, that they pay a little bit along the way. And the idea here is the convention is that a bond's face value should be 10,000 euros or $10,000 or 10,000 pounds. 10,000 is sort of the standard face value for a bond. Okay, if you're a big corporation borrowing 100 million euros, you would do it all in 10,000 euro segments. Okay. So that's the standard convention. Nothing important about that, other than that's how they all are. Okay. So 10,000 face value is normal. And then, well, they have the 10,000 face value, and they hope to get, they kind of want to know how much they're going to get for this, right? They're going to owe 10,000 in, say, 10 years. They want to know how much they're going to get for this. And what they know is typically they know quite a bit about what kind of price they're going to do, because bond traders are doing this all day, every day. They know that this quality of company gets this kind of deal in the market. So they have a very good idea what interest rate IBM is going to pay. I'm never exactly sure, but they have a very good idea. So what they do is they want it to come out so that the price they get for the bond is about the same as the face value. So what they do is they make these coupon payments equal to like the interest earnings on 10,000 euros. So I'm going to suppose I think it's going to be, this company is going to be paying 10% interest. Okay, so they're borrowing 10,000 euros for 5 years. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say you're borrowing 10,000 euros at the moment. So you're going to pay back 10,000 euros, and I want the price to come out 10,000 euros, and I know you're going to be paying about 10% interest. So 10% of 10,000 is 1,000. So I would have a coupon payment of 1,000 every year. So you're getting your return in the coupon payments, and you're basically getting your principal back in the meantime. Okay? And this is just by convention, and I'm never sure. So the price never comes out exactly 10,000. It comes out 9,995 or 10,003 or something. But usually the coupon payments are sort of the cream that you get. They're kind of equal to the interest rate, more or less, when the bond is issued. And the face value is 10,000 euros. Okay? But all of that's just convention. Right? The actual fact of the matter is, it's just an IOU, just a slip of paper that they're selling. Okay? Okay. We will come back to this, but just while we were here, thought we would put that up. Okay. Any questions about bonds? It's sort of a whirlwind tour of bonds, but just so it's not a mystery. Like all the stuff that sounds mysterious about them are just conventions that they use and jargon that they put on top. It's just an IOU. Okay. Now we're going to talk about the Keynesian model. And we're going to start out whirlwind tour of what the main thing we're trying to explain in macroeconomics and trying to be able to do something about. And that's recessions and booms. So, some years are really good. Everyone graduating from college gets a job. Other years are really bad. Nobody gets a job. Has nothing to do with the students. It just has to do with whether economic conditions are good or bad. So, some years are good, some years are bad, right? And we would like to understand where this comes from. And we would like to understand whether there's anything we can do to maybe make it less volatile. Okay, so that's going to be one of our main issues in macroeconomics. And the big punchline we're trying to get out of this, what we're trying to learn from this, is this multiplier. We're trying to understand this idea of the multiplier. So when all is said and done, as you're going through and looking at this chapter, if you don't understand what's going on with the multiplier, you didn't understand the chapter. But this is the big punchline. This is where we're going. All right. Okay. Hey, just a couple of we need to be speaking the same language, which is unfortunate because it involves a little bit of jargon, but it's important to make sure that we're all talking the same stuff, right? So typically our recessions and expansions are going to be defined with what is a normal year. And we're not going to go into it very much. It is, as you might expect, a difficult empirical question. Like if you're dealing with data and you're trying to decide, is this economy in a boom or is it in a recession? Are things, how is it going? Is this a bad year? Well, it's going to be, how is it doing compared to normal? And normal is kind of a difficult concept to grasp. You have to sort of guess what normal is, right? Because everything's weird all the time. It's just, is it different from the trend that it's been on? Is it below the trend that it's been on? Is it above the trend that it's been on? We're not going to go into that because we're theoreticians here, but be aware that if you get into this as an empirical thing, defining normal is going to be problematic because a recession is, are we doing worse than normal? Somehow you have to attach a number to normal, and that is fraught, right? It's a difficult sort of thing. Okay, so we have a growth that's significantly less than normal. We're going to call it a recession. If it's really big, if it's really a lot below normal and it goes on and on and on and on, we're going to call it a depression. We've decided to stop calling things depressions because it's too depressing, but looking back, we call them depressions. And when we say it's an unpleasant time. If we're doing both above normal, that's an expansion. We're growing faster than normal. We're in an expansion. And if it's really, really, really above normal and it's been going on for quite a while, it's a boom. Typically, we're talking about GDP when we're talking about these things, but your measure can be different. Okay. Importantly for us in macroeconomics, we're going to be particularly concerned when these recessions and these expansions are happening across the economy. If it's just happening in one industry, it's not really so much a macroeconomic thing. So you can imagine, for example, in Ireland, one year, people just love Ireland. There was some kind of TV show on Netflix where there was a bunch of guys at Paddy's Bar in New York, and now everyone's flooding into the country. And that's great. A bunch of goofy drunk Americans, lovely. Everyone likes it. But it's not, and it's good for the economy, like everyone's working and all that's lovely. But it's not really what we're thinking about in a boom. Right? It's just one industry, this tourism industry doing really well. It's a big industry, so it affects everybody, but it's not really what we're going to be talking about in this class. We're going to be talking about more times when it's felt across the economy, when it's coming from a widespread sort of thing. Now, this is a bit vague on purpose because it's very hard to tell between one industry and loads of industries, but the concept we're going to be thinking about when we think about a recession or we think about a boom is going to be something that's happening largely across the economy. Right? If we wanted to affect the Americans coming for Paddy's Day market, then we would we have something to target, right? Let's make a Netflix show where all the Irish people seem cool and charming and whatnot, and then they'll all come here. And that's how we would do it. But if we're thinking about how do we make the economy as a whole for Ireland good next year, that's not going to do it, right? So we're really thinking about these widespread things in this class. Right. Okay. It's also nice to note that sometimes this happens just for a country, but lots of times it happens in a much larger scale, like a whole continent is booming, whole continent goes into recession, or even worldwide. So this is a thing that happens that we're concerned about, and that's what we're dealing with here. Okay. We haven't talked about unemployment because it's problematic to measure, and we're not going to get into it much. But you can know that in real life, sometimes in a recession, for example, people become unemployed, no fault of their own. Just, you graduated from college, there's no jobs out there, you don't have a job, just like everyone else. Hopefully not you guys, but this is a thing that happens. And so unemployment is going to be one of the things that we're concerned about. In a recession, typically we're going to have high unemployment. Okay, here's where it gets goofy. Here we are going to redefine the English language in a way that is unnatural, weird, and frankly unfortunate, but is likely to cause you troubles if you don't pay attention that that's what we're doing at this stage. We're going to say, if everything is happening normally and resources in the economy are being used at the normal rate, then we are going to be at potential output. And this is the definition of the word potential output. By output, we mean GDP, the amount of stuff produced in this economy. And if everything's going normal, we're at potential output. And this is a horrible, horrible, horrible piece of jargon. It goes throughout macroeconomics, so we can't avoid it. Like we could avoid it for the class, but then you'd be at a loss when you went out into the world. This is the jargon. It is horrible, but it is what it is. When you think potential, when I think potential, I think of my mother sitting me down and talking and saying, why aren't you achieving your potential? It haunts my dreams. And so, yes, I am not achieving my potential and I never will. And neither will you, because honestly, maybe on a day, but like overall, we could all do better, could we not? And so potential in that sense, in the English language disappointed mother sense, is this thing that you could get to if only you were a better you, but you're not and you fall short, right? That is the natural, potential is the best you could do, right? That seems right. That's not how we're using it here. We are using it incorrectly, wrongly, in a horribly confusing way. We're saying it is the normal amount. Okay? So you can be above your potential. You can be below your potential. If you're above the potential output, it just means you're producing more than normal. If you're below the potential output, you're producing less than normal. And I am sorry about this. I'm sorry about the horrible jargon, but there it is. It's horrible. It is what it is. Potential output just means normal. So if you just replace the word potential with normal in your head, you will have the right idea. Okay. We're also going to call it full employment output. And by full employment, I think I have a slide about this, but by full employment, we do not mean everybody's employed. We mean that we have the normal amount of employment. So the normal amount of people unemployed, the normal number of people living under a bridge. Normal, everything's normal. It's not like we don't have anybody out of work, just the normal number of people out of work. Okay. So the difference between an economy's potential output and its actual output is called the output gap. So this is how different we are from normal, right? Potential output is normal output. This year, are we above normal, below normal? And it's going to be defined in a particular way. How are we doing? Yes. So we're going to call potential output. Again, the normal level of output is going to be Y star. And this is unfortunate for the microeconomists amongst you, because in micro, star always means optimal. But here it doesn't. It just means normal. Okay, just potential output. So this is the normal level of output minus whatever we got in reality. Okay. Now, Those of you who do not have our book, be careful in your book. Your book may define it differently. Every book has their own thing. This is sort of the normal, the usual way to define it professionally. But a lot of books say this is a little confusing. Let's define it the other way around as y minus y star. That's perfectly fine. But when you're following along, make sure that you understand which way it's going. Right? So this definition is a measure, your output gap is a measure of how bad things are. If potential output, normal output, is above the output we got now, that means our output now is less than normal. So things are bad. Right? So this output gap says things are bad. You have a positive output gap, things are that bad. If you define it the other way, it's about how good things are, how much more that you have then. Right? And different books define it different ways. There's nothing right or wrong about any of them, but in this class, we're going to use this definition. And this is one of the few places where using a different book could throw you off if you're not careful. So be aware if you're using another book, check what the definition of output gap is. It's either this or y minus y star, one of the two. Clearly, the meaning is the same, but positive output gap will mean something different if you define it the other way around. Okay. Bye. Definitions. Okay. Let's see. One more thing to do here. Here we're talking about unemployment, right? And when we go out and measure unemployment, what we do is we go to people and we say, do you have a job? Do you want a job? Are you looking for a job? If you want a job, you're looking for a job, but you don't have a job, you're unemployed. If you don't want a job and you just, rather sit on your mound of cash that dad left you, then you're not unemployed. You're just lucky, right? And so good for you, but it's not unemployed. If you have a job, then you're employed, right? So we put people in these categories, and all the time, whenever we do this, these categories are arbitrary. Because I can go to a guy and say, do you have a job? You say, yeah, once every 2 weeks, I get to take out the trash for half an hour and the guy pays me. Is that guy employed or unemployed? Well, you decide, right? If you go to a guy and say, do you have a job? You say, yeah, I work 30 hours a week. Is he employed or unemployed? You decide. Right? If you go to a guy and say, yeah, I got a job taking out the trash, but actually I have a PhD in nuclear physics, I just can't find a job. Well, what is that guy? He's employed, but it's not quite how we expect the economy to be working either. Right? So we have to put people in these categories, and we know whenever we have categories, there's some arbitrariness about it, about whether it looks like you're employed. I could be, for example, unemployed, kicked out for selling bad bonds, not paying back my debts. And then I'm looking for work, and I just keep sending off my CV every week. And I send it off to the United Nations saying, make me Secretary General of the United Nations, that'd be great. And I keep getting a no back every week. They're very polite, very diplomatic. They always send you a letter back. They're great that way. They should be diplomats, I swear. So these guys, they keep writing you back, and they say, and I don't look for any other work because that is my dream job. That's what I want. Well, I don't have a job. I want a job. I'm looking for work. I'm officially unemployed. And yet I'm also unofficially delusional. And so how do you to deal with that? So measurement of unemployment is super problematic and very difficult to compare across countries, very difficult to compare long time periods away from each other. And yet it is useful to notice that this week unemployment went up, right? So we're measuring it the same way every week, and this week it's going up. Maybe we should take notice of that. So it's useful and ridiculous both at the same time. Okay, so we have this unemployment, and we have this guy who's looking for a job, and he can't find a job, and he's unemployed, right? Call him unemployed. Good for him. No, not bad for him. We're going to think, and we're purely doing this in our head, we're going to think that there's 3 reasons he might be unemployed. Okay? If you met him, you'd know. But other than that, There's three reasons from a macroeconomic point of view that he might be unemployed, or large portions of people might be unemployed. The first is frictional unemployment. So, for example, you guys graduate from university, and first thing that happens, as it will, Burger King writes you a letter saying, we got a position on the fries. I never thought I'd start at fries, but now is my chance. But wait, maybe I can get a job at McDonald's fries, or maybe even PricewaterhouseCoopers. I don't know, one of those. And you're thinking, you have a job offer, it's not what you want. We think in practice, the way the real world works, it is going to take some time to match up the jobs with the people. Ideally, it wouldn't be this way. It would all happen instantaneously. But in real life, it won't. It will take some time, right? This is called frictional unemployment. Just because life takes time to do stuff, it's going to take time to find a job. Some people, bless their hearts, are going to get caught stealing from the bank in their job as a bank teller. And these people, hopefully, will lose their job, but it might take them a while to find a new job, right? So that we don't have all our bank tellers stealing money from us. So that would be good. This is the market, behaving normally. A certain amount of friction. We would like to lower this, but it's always going to exist. There's going to be some unemployment just moving people from one job to another. Okay? We would expect, for instance, that a country with lots of young people would have higher frictional unemployment than one without lots of young people, because getting started is always hard. Right? We would expect that a country with lots of old people, where they just went through a big recession, might have fairly high frictional unemployment as they work to match their skills with the jobs that are now available now that we've come out of recession. Right? So we don't worry generally too much about frictional unemployment because it's part of life, and what can you do? A thing we do worry about quite a lot is structural unemployment, and that's where you have people that have skills, you have jobs that require people, but the skills and the jobs, they don't match up. Right? So you can imagine, for example, in Waterford, they had a lot of people who were very, very, very good at making crystal, could do all kinds of clever things with glass. And yet those jobs have disappeared from Ireland, and those people with a lot of useful skills don't have jobs that match those skills. Okay? This is a bit of an old example now, but nonetheless, you can see that this is a problem. And so that is a real problem. It is not really a macroeconomic problem, though. So it's not something we're going to address in this class. It's something that you would have to do by targeting those skills. Right? Maybe you could get into lens manufacture. Maybe you could retrain those people, but something specific to that industry. Right? What we're going to be interested in here is cyclical unemployment, which is just because we're in a boom or a recession. So we have unemployment because we're in a recession. That's going to be something that we're concerned about. Now, in real life, you always have all three, right? Well, maybe not always cyclical unemployment, but you're always going to have some structural. You're always going to have some frictional. And in a bad time, you're going to have some cyclical as well. But really in this class, are going to be concerned with the cyclical unemployment. And I hear people being restless, and rightly so. Okay, I will see you on Friday.